Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chat, Grapple, and Cheap Pops podcast with myself, Chris Dredd, and the main man, Jordan JB.
What's happening?
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. I hope everyone's all right out there. Um, Me and JB trying to hit up the second video in a few days because we left it. There was a bit of a gap in between it, so we thought that you guys we'd smack another one out the park for you, and this is a big one.
It really is. It's historical, momentous. It's got everything you would want in a mid-90s outrageously brilliant pay-per-view. And and it came from WCW,
That's right.
who were doing absolutely everything to take over the wrestling business at the time. And they did a pretty good job.
They were throwing so much money at it. They were trying to do different things. They were trying to be innovative. And to be fair, I mean, WCW from that time, a lot of the ideas that you see in wrestling today, like the different types of matches, even like Hell in a Cell and things like that, a lot of it originated from original WCW ideas, I would say.
I'd agree to a point because a few things that WCW have done have been borrowed, shall we say?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the angle that comes in the main event was originally taken from a New Japan move around in the early 90s, which involved another promotion and stuff like that. But we don't want to. There's no spoilers here.
No spoilers, man. We're going to begin at the beguine, as they say. So, as you can see, we don't have a VHS or DVD cover. We've got these four beauties as our backing today. And for anyone who don't know, obviously, it is Lex Luger, total package. You got Sting, you got Macho Man Randy Savage, and the Mean Gene Okerlund there. And
huge stars at the time.
Huge stars. And these were randomly picked to represent the WCW against the hostile takeover. So, I mean, where do you want to start, Jay? Should we start with a little bit of background as to it? Yeah.
Well, absolutely. Let's start May 27th, Monday Nitro, on the great channel known as TNT. A very, very familiar figure starts bowling his way through the crowd to interrupt a pretty standard match between the Mauler and Steve Dole.
Yeah.
And the first thing he says is, "You know who I am? I'm not going to do the accent, but you don't know why I'm here." And it's Razor.
Razor, baby.
Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, Diamond Stud, if you want to go that far back.
Yeah.
He's jumped ship, and he's obviously looking to start a war.
He was looking for billionaire Ted's big bucks. He was looking for the money. He was looking for where the big boys play, which was the tagline of WCW around that time, where the big boys play. And at this time they'd got some big stars that had already been in WWF at the time. They had Lex Luger, they had Macho Man Randy Savage, they also had Hulk Hogan.
Main
eventers. And at the time of this pay-per-view, July 7th, 1996, Ocean Center, Daytona Beach, Florida. By that time, Hulk Hogan had not been seen on TV, I believe, for maybe, I'd say close to 6 to 7, 8 weeks, maybe.
Well, he wasn't the world champion.
He wasn't the world champion, yeah.
Commonplace at the time. Hogan at that point was champion for a lot of it.
He was always involved in some way, shape or form with the title or with whoever had the title. He'd been in the bouts where, the Giant had been thrown off a building.
Oh
They
boy.
had the monster truck thing that they did. So Hogan was involved predominantly in everything that was going on in WCW at that time. But then, for whatever reason, it was probably movies. It was probably other commitments that he had that obviously WCW had said to him, fine, you can do this stuff. If you sign with us, we'll give you some time off or whatever when you need to do this. I don't
More
know
money.
if he was injured at all. Do you think?
I mean, with Hogan, you could never really tell. You
I
know,
think it was predominantly movies. Um, that he was off with, and it had to be. But preceding this pay per view, he'd been off, I reckon, at least 6 or 7 weeks. Um,
yeah, that's probably about right because on June 10th on Nitro, Scott Hall brings out his good buddy,
yep.
former WWF champion. You may remember him in WCW as Oz.
Or Vinny
I had to get
Vegas.
I had to get that in
Got to
there.
get it in every time.
Um, Kevin Nash or Diesel,
Big
whoever
Daddy
you want to
Cool.
call him, Big Daddy
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, baby.
He's there to see where the big boys play, and they eventually get to the Great American Bash where he jackknifes Eric Bischoff off the stage.
Yep,
I mean, now this is a much better jackknife than the one we saw at WrestleMania 11.
yep, it was.
Let's just clarify that. He's obviously been working hard at it.
Yeah,
It's a much better jackknife, and it all leads to here. It all leads to the random drawings, as you brought up, of a team of three: Luger, Sting, and Savage against Hall, Nash, and the third man. We'll get to the third man, I think, at around about the main event. I think it's probably best that we save it.
yep. Um,
Um,
Go on, mate. I was just going to say, it seemed that when the two guys come in, Hall and Nash, when they came in, um, everybody in WCW was kind of felt a bit threatened, and that's what they were actively playing. I mean, you even had the Four Horsemen, saying things negatively against them, and I would have thought that they would have been quite happy to have a few bad guys in there doing some bad things,
yeah, it's
especially against these
presented as
three.
a genuine threat to the company,
Yeah, that's what it was played as. It was like these
and
guys, they're
it's
coming in
excellent.
and they're taking over. And that's what it was played. And you see at the start of this pay per view, as it comes in. Um,
I have to jump in because this is gonna. I don't know if we haven't spoke about this and we haven't brought it up. I'm a little bit annoyed. I've got here on my brief notes here before the pay per view even starts. They decide to tape an episode of WCW main event
yeah, on the same night.
on the same night before the pay per view,
Correct.
and there's two matches on this main event episode that should have been on the pay per view for sure.
Yeah, go for it.
Tag team champions Harlem Heat take on the Steiner brothers.
Yeah,
Why is that not in the show?
yeah,
And this match, which definitely should have been on any show anywhere in the world, Eddie Guerrero and Lord Steven Regal.
absolutely. Both of those matches would have made this pay per view a great pay per view.
Would have made money.
It would have made money, but I mean, let's in 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 the vein of trying to be positive.
Yeah.
There's a couple of matches on here, however, that probably could have been taken off the pay per view, and the Regal Guerrero match could have been put in, and the Harlem Heat Steiner brothers match could have been put in,
Yeah.
because I can think of two straight off the top of my head that could have just. I would not have shed a tear if they weren't on this pay per view at all.
I'm sure we'll get to them.
Yeah.
But
It's
like
a very
you said,
strange decision why they had that on the Saturday night's main event, because it is baffling, really, why
it's
they
an
would
odd one.
demote it.
But I mean, who are we to pick the brains of one Eric Bischoff?
Well, he wasn't even there.
who
He wasn't.
isn't even there. He's missing
MIA.
at Showtime. Like you said, Ocean Center, Daytona Beach, Florida. This is a big, so Florida at the time is a big sort of money area for WCW. It's where they've had other Bash at the Beaches. They've, or even Beach Blast. I think they've
Blast. Yeah.
done really well at
Yeah.
these places. Our three-man commentary booth for the evening: Tony Schiavone, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and the American Dream.
Indeed.
Dusty Rhodes. What a trio this is, because they have fun all night.
They do. There's some real cracking moments. But even these guys, from the moment the pay-per-view starts, they're playing off this. Oh, we're a bit nervous.
Oh yeah.
Bischoff has been smashed through the stage at Great American Bash. They've got security guards all around them as it starts. One match actually makes it up to the announce booth as well. A couple of guys from one of the matches actually make their way up there, and they start panicking a little bit and telling them to go and that kind of thing. So it's they're playing the whole, well, what is going to happen? We don't know what's going on. We don't know who this third man is. I mean, these guys, they did great. I think the commentary team.
They did very well. Heenan is on amazing form all night long.
Yeah.
Dusty is great, with his bits and pieces. I mean, we even get Mike Tenay.
Yes, we do.
Who turns up in our first match.
Yes. Which was real good fun. Really good fun on the commentary.
I think we can jump straight into it. Psychosis and Rey Mysterio Jr.
And at this time, Rey Mysterio Jr., as everybody will know, is obviously Rey Mysterio, but they dropped the Junior. I don't know when they dropped the Junior, but they've dropped the Junior.
They drop it when he goes to WWE.
Right. So the Rey Mysterio was 21.
Yeah.
21 years old. Psychosis, 25. At this time, they've had a feud in Mexico, literally going back years. They both went to the same training school. This all comes out in the commentary.
Well, this is it. I mean, this feud has already played out in Philadelphia. In ECW, they did their whole bit before they moved on to WCW. But they did, they'd already played this scene out in front of the ECW arena, which doesn't hold a lot of people. But there is a few tapes and maybe a few like knocking about of their match in ECW.
Yeah.
But I mean, I put this in my notes. This wouldn't be the last thing WCW stole from ECW.
No, and just a very quick thought. There's a guy in the front row who's got an ECW shirt, smack bang in the middle in the front row, and he's got an ECW t-shirt on. Also, very quick side note, talking about the crowd, I noticed at least on 2 occasions in this pay-per-view, security taking signs off people.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I noticed what one of them definitely said, 100%. And I wasn't sure. I kept trying to catch. There was another, like a banner one that was like a printed out banner thing, but I can't quite remember what was on that. But I do know what was printed on one of them, and we'll get to it fairly soon. But yeah, first match, Psychosis. Also, a very quick side note, dude. Sorry, one of my most prized possessions of wrestling memorabilia is a signed picture by Psychosis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just thought I'd let you know.
So that's good stuff.
I mean, for me, this was probably the best match. Could have been the best match on the pay-per-view, really, as you talking technical wrestling matches go. I would say it was absolutely phenomenal.
It's an incredible match, and we'll get through some of it, and there are bits and pieces that really stick out. As we said, Mike Tenay joins the booth. Bobby Heenan is on fire throughout, and I've got a couple of quotes here. He says that Rey Mysterio Jr.'s hair, he has hair like Demi Moore.
Because the G.I. Jane had just
He's
come out at that
completely
time.
gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Psychosis has hair like Peg Bundy.
Yeah.
It's another Married with Children reference.
Yeah. And
that's
he did.
two shows, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a King Kong Bundy who would be in Married with Children from WrestleMania 11.
Yeah.
And now we have Peg Bundy references. I mean, Heenan's on fine form.
He is.
You know, things start out really technical. It's a good start. It's they're getting straight to it. A dive by Psychosis out to the floor where his head goes under the barricade.
Yeah.
It just looks so dangerous.
Yeah. There's a few points. There's a few parts in this match that, I mean, you can tell that these guys have done this, you know, hundreds of times. The suicide dives, the Hurricane Ranas, the moon, the the acai style moonsault. You know, it's great to see, man. And we've got to also think this is mainstream 1996 WCW. There wasn't really anything like this in WWF at that time, I would say. We'd seen it in ECW, but there wasn't nothing coming from that company up north that really was close to this. I mean, who was the high flyers they would have had at this time? 1, 2, 3 Kid.
You know, was Marty Jannetty still around? Who knows?
Shawn Michaels. You know,
and they're still even they're bigger than these guys.
Yeah.
So.
And I've just a massive shout out to the Mexicans attire as well. Psychosis, his costumes were always top notch. As Rey Mysterio, a lot of presentation, a lot of emphasis put on the presentation. And also, these guys had wrestled the night before in Mexico, as had Conan. Right. So they'd all travelled down, all three of them, from Mexico, and they'd all travelled up from Mexico from the night before. So they would have been absolutely fucked from that anyway. And to put on a match like this,
yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Oh.
There's a guillotine leg drop from Psychosis. You know, it's beautiful. But
fantastic.
Who does it better? Psychosis, or beautiful Bobby Eaton?
I mean, Bobby Eaton's got a great leg drop off the top, but
the Alabama Jam.
You know what? I really like Psychosis is because he linked it with another one where he did the guillotine leg drop off the top, and then as Rey Mysterio rolled over, he kind of pulled him over to the side, then jumped over and did another leg drop on the apron of the ring.
Yeah.
And then he walked round and walked back into the ring. Psychosis, the way these guys work was just absolutely phenomenal. The way that, you know, they would work with the referee and work around the referee. And there's a point where before Psychosis does his suicide dive out on Rey Mysterio gets thrown out of the ring, and there's 2 chairs right in front of him, and Rey throws the chairs out the way very quickly before Psychosis comes out to save them both getting clattered with the chairs. So they're 21 and 25, but they're like seasoned veterans.
It's ring savvy, isn't it?
They're absolute really fucking good pros, man. They're you know, the amount of time, collective hours that these guys have spent in the ring. It is just phenomenal, and you can see it's in the in-ring product that you see before you in this match. It is a great match, a good 20-minute match.
Just for reference, I'm picking Bobby Eaton's Alabama Jam over Psychosis. Yeah.
I mean, to be honest,
what a move that is.
I'm a huge Psychosis fan. Let me say that's why I picked Psychosis. When I was wrestling, I actually had a mask made for me. I'm called Chris Dredd, and obviously people that don't know, I used to have dreadlocks, massive dreadlocks. And as you know, when we was in the ring together, they would be quite handy to drag me around the ring with. And I used to have a mask with my dreads coming out the top fashioned after Psychosis, and I'm a huge Psychosis fan. I love the character, the way he used to put his body on the line, the stuff he used to do. So yeah, that's why I picked Psychosis. I think I've got a little bit of a sweet spot.
Big Psychosis fan, but give me 2 seconds.
Yeah. Booyaka, booyaka!
Sometimes you can't help yourself when you're in Mexico and you've got a ton of like money on the side to buy random stuff.
Absolutely, man. When in Mexico, I've got a luchador mask as well from Mexico that my sister got for me, and they actually talk about in this match. You can just buy them on the street. They're the best-selling merchandise. Bobby Heenan goes, "You can't buy. You can buy these in a bank." Something like that.
Yeah. They make a point that Ray's from San Diego. Brain decides that he's going to say that Ray is the original San Diego chicken.
That's correct.
Has me chuckling.
And then Schiavone says, "Oh, you get away with some stuff here, man. You get away with saying some stuff here." He's got some absolute brilliant lines in this. I've got a few of them as we go through some of the stuff that he says. Yeah. Even at the end of this match, it's just absolutely fantastic.
There's a Hurricane Rana to the floor from Rey Mysterio. It's like excellent stuff. It's really
brilliant.
Right. It's
picture
perfect. I put in here because they carried on. They were going on about it quite a lot, so I thought I've noted it down that the commentary booth was, expressing real worry for Eric Bischoff still.
Yeah,
it'd be a recurring theme throughout the night. The crazy senton to the floor from Psychosis.
Yeah, I've got that down as well. That would have hurt.
Yeah, I know sometimes you think, what were you thinking? And then you realise, it's live. You're up there. You got to do something.
That's right.
It's pay-per-view. You're not going to get away with, stepping down.
And this is why they had Mike Tenay on the commentary, because Mike Tenay was saying. He was talking about the technical moves, and he had the names for the moves. So, you had American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, don't know what a senton is. You know what I mean? So he's just talking about, the basics, and then you've got Mike Tenay saying, yeah, that's a senton. They call that a senton bomb. And even the finishing move, or the attempted finishing move, where they were talking about the Splash Mountain and all that kind of thing, into a Frankenstein or Hurricane Rana or whatever, which is another move that I used to love doing in the ring. And it's it's nice they had Mike tonight, or Iron Mike as they kept calling him. And
Iron Mike from Las Vegas. Yeah.
They had Iron Mike was talking, saying something, then he stopped, and then Bobby Heenan went to say something, and then Schiavone said, "Oh, I was talking to Iron Mike." And then he says, "Oh, all right, fine," like that. And then it goes silent for like 2 seconds, like slightly after this. And then Dusty Rhodes just about to speak, and he says, "No, wait a minute. He was just about to speak to Iron Mike." So
he really makes it awkward.
It's brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Like I say, rest in peace, Bobby the Brain Heenan, one of the best wrestling brains out there, best commentators, best managers, and even his in-ring work, guys. Watch Bobby the Brain Heenan wrestle. The guy can wrestle, man. He could wrestle. He was a great psychologist, and his matches were absolutely phenomenal. So watch some of them if you can get them online or whatever.
Did you manage to catch during it's an exchange in the ring? Did you manage to catch Dusty just faintly say the word "beautiful" during an exchange in the ring between?
I think so. Just before one of them slides out, I think he says "beautiful."
I think Ray ends up on Psychosis' shoulders.
Oh yes, yes, where he does a backwards roll, jumps up, and then ends up on his shoulders. Yes, I did catch it.
And you just about hear Dusty say "beautiful." Like Dusty, Dusty was never working like that back in the 80s, but he understood like what great wrestling looked like, and you can really tell he's enjoying himself.
Yeah.
And I've got here, it's a twisting cannonball. It's more like they called it an acai style move. It was more like a cannonball.
Yeah.
Ray hits his leg on the barricade.
That looked
It's a
brutal. Fantastic
little bit,
move.
yeah, little bit close to the barricade there, and
Yeah.
it doesn't look like he hurts himself too bad. Again, words that I'm going to use a lot is beautiful, like a sit out powerbomb, psychosis, like really good stuff.
Yeah.
These guys are
Because he jumps.
busting hump.
Ray jumps in the ring to give him the Hurricane Rana, and just before he
Yeah.
does it, he sit down power bombs him.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Just a great thing when Mike Tenay says, "Oh, there's Rey Mysterio Jr. with a twisting acai style moonsault," and then you just got Bobby Brain goes, "What? Acai?" Like he just, it's so good. He goes, "What? Acai? Where'd you get these words from?" And then I think the Dream or Tony says, look, he studies his craft or whatever, and he knows his stuff. It's and he calls Bobby the Brain at the end. He goes, "Yeah, that's a keep 'em a flopping," or something like that. When he's just
Psychosis goes for a splash mountain. Ray reverses it into a Hurricane Rana. It's really good stuff for the free count. You can tell the fans are so into this at the beginning. And it became a bit of a theme on, WCW shows, and eventually, in WWE, like Ray would open the show.
Yeah, he did it on a couple of WrestleManias. Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting something incredible to start with, and they got that here. Really got the fans on board. I mean, I'm sure they were already on board because the main event was going to draw a crowd anyway, but keeping people entertained, giving them their money's worth in this one for sure. We go from here to Mean Gene with Conan in a strange interview. I'm going to go for.
I put very serious interview. It was a strange one.
Well, he threatens to cripple Ric Flair's manager.
Yep, and
he threatens to clothesline the women.
That's correct. Yep.
And chop block the football player.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
What, the football player?
Yeah, fine with that.
Yeah, okay.
Don't get me started on the football players match on this one.
It's an odd interview. Mean Gene is very busy all night.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was Conan. It was Conan before he becomes, suave, cool Conan. It's very serious, wrestler Conan.
Yeah. And he'd also wrestled in Mexico the night before. They were playing up the fact that he'd travelled up and he'd got himself together and he's ready because he was wrestling Ric Flair to defend the USA Championship that Conan had.
This brings us to the Carson City Silver Dollar match. I had to make sure I got that right.
Dude.
Yeah, my brain hurt on this one. It's Big Bubba, Ray Trailer, Big Boss Man, as we know him, as kids and stuff, against John Tenter, who was Shark in WCW.
Yep.
Avalanche in WCW, Earthquake again, like around the time Boss Man was in WWF.
Yeah.
I genuinely wasn't sure on how this match was going to work. It was to break it down, it was a sock filled with coins on a pole match.
Yeah, but the pole wasn't just a pole. It was flipping huge. This thing, it was the size of nearly 3 men. It was absolutely huge, this pole.
Yeah.
And you've got 2 guys that are 300 pounds plus, 400 pound plus, in poles that there's no way on your Nelly they are ever going to be able to climb this pole.
And the shot they had of the sock filled with coins, let's not take that away just yet. It looked incredibly phallic.
It did. It looked cheap as well. It looked cheap. It looked like Mr. Socko with grey gaffer tape on it.
It was something. And I'm gonna try and be positive here. It's 2 guys that are a little bit past it in their prime. They're definitely not in their prime here.
Tenter's in better shape than he was when he was Earthquake, though. He trimmed down a fair bit, I would say,
Yeah.
compared to the Earthquake years.
But like I said, two guys that are probably just a little bit over the hill. But yeah, there's not a lot to go on here. I've got a big bump from the top rope from Tenta. Like,
Do you know the best thing about this match?
go on.
Bobby the Brain Heenan's commentary, mate. My notes in
mean-
this match are basically a little bit of why have two massive guys do a match like this,
Yeah.
and then the other half is just basically Bobby the Brain Heenan quotes.
Oh, is it?
One of them is, did you know that when Tenta was born he was 287 pounds? And then and then Schiavone goes, I don't believe that at all. It's just Heenan is the one, like when there was a part in the match when Big Bubba had taken a belt off and he had it wrapped round John Tenta's thing, and it was like a lead, and he was pulling it on like a lead, and then Bobby the Brain Heenan says he may have to take him outside. Maybe it's that time of the day.
Yeah, I remember that one. That's a good one.
And he hit him when he's whipping him with a belt.
Yeah.
Bobby the Brain Heenan says, "Oh, getting him right in the gills," and he's like, "No, he's not a fish," and he's like, "No, he's not an avalanche either."
Yeah. I've got here, Bubba crotches himself. Dusty makes a point. He says, "There's nothing pretty about this."
Yeah, and then they all say,
he was right. Yeah.
and then yeah, there's nothing pretty about this. And then Heenan says it, and they go, "Oh, we need one more for a barbershop quartet."
Yeah. Bubba makes Jimmy Hart climb the pole to get the sock.
Yeah.
Bubba ends up getting hit by Tenta. It's, but I will say this: there's a huge reaction for Tenta getting the sock.
Yeah, there was a pop for that.
Him with it.
Yeah, there was a pop with that. And Heenan, to quote Heenan, when they're showing the replay, he says, "Whack, right in the yap," which was great. I just thought this was it was just meh, this match. I mean, like I say, we try and be positive and that, but sometimes things are just shit. And they've been playing this angle before, because John Tenta turned up with half a head of hair. He'd shaved his beard off in previous episodes of Nitro or Saturday Night, and Tenta literally had half his head shaved. So you had half of his hair and literally a straight line down the back, and it bald on the other side. He actually pulls out tape, Big Bubba, and tapes John Tenta to the ropes, and he gets scissors out to maybe cut his beard or cut some more hair off, and then basically he gets hold of the scissors, cuts the tape, and then he's, there's no way these guys are getting up that pole. So they're looking at it thinking, how are we going to get this? And obviously the scissors come into play with trying to get the pole down. We won't give it all away. But like I say, I wasn't impressed by this match, to be honest. Like I say, a couple of guys a bit over the hill. If it weren't for Jimmy Hart shimmying up the pole and getting it, I think
could have been here all night. Yeah.
Yeah, it was never going to happen. I thought honestly one of them was going to bend it down, put all their weight on it and pull it down.
I mean, it could. Someone might have suggested it. We've got the commentary booth talking about the third man, and they deserve to know who it is, and it's worrying them that they're not being told who this third man is.
They say to Heenan to ask Woody, his informant.
We've got Mean Gene with Savage, Luger, and Sting right there.
This promo that you see before you, they're all in makeup.
It's wild. It's chaotic. One of the lines that I got out of it was, "The unknown gives Sting a dry mouth."
It does. Yep. Is it the unknown gives him a dry mouth? It gives him goose pimples all over his body, and it does the same to the total package, and it does the same to the Macho Man.
I mean, what a crazy promo this is.
It's unbelievable. It's a step back to the 80s a little bit, this
one.
A
little bit, yeah, that's what I was thinking. It just, it's just it's just a little step back in time because it's all just it's so intense, it's wild, it's out of sorts.
Yeah.
Mean Gene's doing brilliantly to keep it all together.
I mean, Luger looks ripped in this.
A
Absolutely
lot bigger
ripped.
than he does in our last episode.
Yeah.
A lot bigger.
He'd been on
And
that orange juice.
he was hitting the ICO Pro.
He was, yeah.
Um, we'll move on. We'll get to the taped fist match?
Yeah, just a quick one. The exit of this promo is just fantastic, where they all kind of have a bit of a growl off, and they're all kind of flexing, and they're all like right in the camera with their biggest, meanest face, and it's just it's a bit laughable, but it's funny because they're still playing up they don't know who the third man is and all this kind of stuff, and I mean, it was fine. It was fine.
It's good stuff.
It was good.
But the taped fist match. A weird sort of gimmicky match to stick on, another one because we've just had the Carson City Silver Dollar match. That's hard to say, but that one is. But tape fist match a lot easier to say. It's DDP who's working his way up the card against Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yeah.
I'm not going to shout ho.
Full of cheap pops, running down to the ring with a flag and the
it's
old.
What this show was made for.
The tongue in the side of the.
Duggan, American flag waving. It's real cheap sort of pop stuff. It's great for us, and the live crowd seemed to enjoy it for a bit. Heenan says that the whole Duggan family was punchy.
Yeah, his mama was punchy. His grandmama was punchy. He's like, no, they're punchers.
Yeah,
it was great.
Again, this one doesn't have a lot to go on. It's not a big match in terms of what's going on in the show. But DDP tapes Duggan to the ring post. And there's not a lot to it. I've got here underneath that is Heenan in fine form because he's just letting them go one after the other. They're fighting over a ring, I believe, the Battle Bowl ring.
They're fighting over the Battle Bowl ring. Yeah,
yeah. Battle Bowl was a big deal in the early 90s, but I don't remember it being so big in mid 90s.
No. You also see a very quick cameo of the crab cam.
The crab cam.
The crab cam. It's like a toy crab, yeah? And you're looking from the point of view. So as they're coming down the aisle, you've got the two crab claws, and then the camera is like the point of view of the crab. And he appears in another part of the pay-per-view as well. So this is the first time you briefly see the crab cam.
Should we give a brief moment to the set and how great the set looked?
Yeah, man, always big up the set. You get to see a lot more of the set in the match between Public Enemy and the Nasty Boys.
We'll get to that. DDP wins with a diamond cutter. I haven't got a lot to go on here like with this one. I did, I've sat and watched it, and there aren't many highlights from this. But DDP wins with a diamond cutter. The diamond cutter is not as over as it will eventually get.
Yeah.
In WCW. And then DDP wins it. Duggan cheap shots him with a tape fist punch.
Yeah, and it's stupid the way he doesn't even really tape his fist either. He puts a little bit round it, spins it round, and then whacks him. But again, another high point of this match was the security taking a sign off of a fan, and the sign was a very small, just oversized A4 thing, and it said "Booty Babe #1," and the guy was holding it. He was front row, and he was holding it in front of DDP when he was down there, and he was holding it down there. So I wonder why they took that off him. These things always play on my mind. I think, well, okay, we've all seen the sign.
It's not incredibly offensive at the time.
It says "Booty Babe #1." That's all it says.
Which is referring to Kimberly Page.
And and also Booty Man, right? Let's get to the Booty Man quickly. Where did he disappear to? Because when Hogan disappeared, because they were putting him in some matches and that on Nitro and Saturday Night, and he had the Booty Babe Kimberly, and then literally boom, he just.
Well, the thing with Booty Man, Ed Leslie, Hogan's friend, for anyone that doesn't know, I'm guessing is when Hogan took time off, there was no one around to push for Ed or Booty Man or whatever you want to call him, to push for him to be prominent on shows. I'm guessing he was only on these shows to appease Hogan.
And where was Kimberly as well? Because they gave him the Booty Babe. They changed their name to the Booty Babe.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just guessing here that when Hogan was around, it was let's do what Hulk wants, and then when he's not around, Hogan probably wasn't that bothered about what was going on the show, so they could just get rid of him. He's probably preparing for another gimmick.
Also, well, we'll get to it later. I was going to do a spoiler. But yeah, about something that someone called Hogan something. But yeah, we'll get to that. So, like I say, a highlight for this tape fist match was the commentary. It was fantastic. Yeah. You had Bobby the Brain. There was a part in the match where basically Diamond Dallas Page took Duggan to the corner and then taped his legs together with tape. And Bobby the Brain Heenan says, yeah, his legs are taped together like his eyes are. Gold. Absolute gold. And also you had a time where DDP was in the middle of the ropes. He was getting hit repeatedly by Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He was bouncing up and he was falling backwards and then going forwards and coming backwards. The old classic spot where he's, like that in the ropes. And the American Dream says he's lollygagging on the ropes doing the hurly-gurly.
Wow.
Which, yeah, dude, it was. And if you can imagine that in the American Dreams, the way he says it, he's lollygagging on the ropes doing the hurly-gurly. It was just beautiful.
I mean, that's incredible. I mean, if anyone's got a translation,
yeah,
do send it in.
Fantastic. Lollygag. That was a high point for me. The lollygagging on the ropes doing the hurly-gurly. And obviously his legs are taped together like his eyes.
Yeah. We go to Mean Gene with Kevin Sullivan and our world champion, the Giant. It's reference that this is Sullivan's hometown of of Daytona Beach, I'm guessing. The Giant says that the Horsemen aren't the elite.
No.
I'm sure you could probably say that one person in the Horsemen wasn't the elite at this time.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Don't you worry.
We'll get to him. But yeah, there wasn't a lot to pick out of this interview. It's just Mean Gene working overtime tonight. The Giant looks impressive as the champion. I'm surprised that he's not defending the belt on this show, but then you understand why.
Yeah.
As the show goes on.
Yeah.
We then cut to Lee Marshall, who's, and I'll say this, it's Tony the Tiger.
Mm-hmm.
Lee Marshall, the voice of Tony the Tiger for Kellogg's Frosties. Over here, Frosted Flakes.
Yep.
In America. I've always found that as a really fun fact. And, it was always fun to hear him speak on there. He was on Thunder a lot, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Marshall.
Yeah.
He's with Chris Benoit and Arn Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this. I think at this point, there's probably too much for us to say about Benoit and Sullivan.
We will do a controversial episode at some point where we won't necessarily be saying what we think about anything, but the whole controversy, I mean, it's no secret this pay-per-view begins a certain chapter in the lives of Chris Benoit, Nancy Sullivan, and the Taskmaster. So there's a few poignant things that get said that going forward to now, knowing what has gone and some people's theories about what happened with Chris Benoit and his family, and how that some people believe that Sullivan might have been involved in some way, shape, or form. When you have Benoit saying things like, Sullivan, I'm going to leave you for dead, and you also have him, silent but violent. You have him saying things like that. It's Benoit, you can't take away. People might want to, but you can't take away what he did in the ring. He was a great wrestler. He was a perfectionist. Wasn't the greatest on the mic, but he was believable when he was in the ring, what he was doing.
And I think that's going to be a point for us here, especially on this show. It's strictly what happens in the ring, or unless we do that said episode on the whole situation. What we're talking about here is completely in ring, on the microphone.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, it's, stuff that we, dare I say, enjoyed watching.
We're reviewing the show.
Yeah.
I mean, let's, there's a quote by Vince Russo, okay? And a lot of people will say a lot of things about Vince Russo.
We like Vince.
We
Russo.
like Vince. I like Vince Russo, and he said something quite poignant because I'm subscribed to his YouTube channel. He puts a lot of content out there, and there was a video a few years back about he says something about China. He's talking about China, and apparently he was fairly good pals with her. So he was talking about when Triple H said, that about her when Stone Cold Steve Austin asked Triple H, are we going to see China in the Hall of Fame? And he said the classic never say never, as they always say, things come and go, and in wrestling never say never. But then, basically they ruined her life at one time. One minute she was engaged to Triple H and she was top of the show, then next minute she's not, and then they've not got really a program for her, and the stuff like that. And basically he says about the people in the Hall of Fame, because they were saying about putting China in the Hall of Fame, but then he said, we don't want some 8-year-old kid Googling China, and then her being in the Hall of Fame, her Googling China, and then seeing all this other stuff that you would see about China, because she did the Vivid video, she did the porn and stuff like that, but she was at a point in her life where she had a lot of problems, she didn't have any money, she was this, or whatever. But then he made the point and he says, look, he said, you can't say that because there's a lot of other people in the Hall of Fame that have done questionable things. If we're looking at their wrestling ability, we can talk about, let me throw one out there for you. Superfly Jimmy Snooker. Yeah, let me chuck him out there and throw him under the proverbial bus quickly. A lot of people have said that he did a certain unthinkable thing, and he's not the only one. There's a hell of a lot of people in the Hall of Fame that if you Googled them, you'd probably find a lot more information on them than what WWE would want you to. So it's one of those things where I know Benoit's slightly different because it is, I say it is black and white that he killed his wife and his child and then killed himself. But are we separating the in-ring character from Chris Benoit when he went home? So
for the purpose of these reviews, we are going to separate.
That's what I'm saying. This is what we do. We separate it. So if we're reviewing China on a pay-per-view, we are reviewing China on the pay-per-view, the character of China. We're not looking into the background of Joni Lauder, the person.
And that's it. We are specifically looking here at the character of
yes,
Chris Benoit
yeah,
on a television show
yeah,
or on a pay-per-view, and that's going to be it. And that
yeah. It's just a strange one with this pay-per-view where it
is
is seemingly the beginning of the relationship on TV between Chris Benoit and Nancy Sullivan. And this is why it's a bit of a weird one, and we have to make the point that we are distinctly, we are talking about the on-screen stuff. But it is a bit weird when he says certain things, and it just, it doesn't sit right sometimes.
After this, we have the dog collar match.
Yes, we do.
Texas Tornado dog collar match. Which, I mean, again, it's a lot of gimmick matches. You're starting to.
Every match had a gimmick. Every match had a gimmick or a name to it.
You're starting to feel it. You're like, wow, another one. Okay, let's go. Like, let's have another gimmick match. And it's the Public Enemy against the Nasty Boys.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure who the babyfaces are in this match, because the fans are doing the waving thing for the Public Enemy.
Yep.
And they're cheering for the Nasty Boys.
Yep, that's right. It was, for me, I would have much preferred to see Harlem Heat versus the Steiners, rather than this match, because this is a match also. We'd seen Public Enemy and the Nasty Boys beat the shit out of each other previous times to this. It didn't.
It's another homage to ECW.
Yeah.
And I've got here, it turns ugly quickly. With the rubbish bins and and there's a rubber shark.
There's a rubber shark, yeah. But there's also there's a rubber shark on the surfboard, but there's also the American Dream Dusty Rhodes just about to say he's getting ready to hang 10. Talking the old surfing chat, and Bobby the Brain Heenan says, "What? You're about to say getting ready to hang 10?" He says, and then he turns around and he says, "Say wipeout, say wipeout." It's the commentary again.
We've got the classic line of Dusty saying that they're picking up some plunder.
Some plunder, yeah.
Plunder, yeah. I mean, things that stuck out for me. There was a 2 count on the surfboard.
Yeah.
And we spoke about this before because we had a brief chat. The 2 cameras that were following each 2 guys on the dog collars, it made it a bit weird to watch. It was like a bit difficult to follow.
It's hard to keep track because there was a lot of action going on between both guys. And for me personally, like I said to Jordan before, like I was watching for the majority of it. I tried to flip between the 2, but what I was seeing was Sags and so you had Knobs was with Grunge, and then you had Rocco Rock with Sags, and it just looked like, I can't explain it. Like Sags was, like you said, he was like flinching, but like Rocco Rock was just, he was like tapping him so gently with this lid. So you've got the juxtapose of, in one screen, on one screen on one side, you've got Rocco Rock just tapping Sags really gently with this bin lid, and then you look to the other screen, and then you've got Johnny Grunge lying on the floor, and you've got Knobs like throwing a chair directly at his head and like whacking him with the edge of chairs and stuff, like being so savagely brutal, like beating the crap out of him. Like, I mean, it also looked like Johnny Grunge had maybe a broken wrist, or a partially fractured arm or something. The way that it actually looked like he had a cast on his arm rather than it being taped up, because I know they'd done a bit of a program with the Nasties leading up to this. They had actually a three-way dance where you had Legion of Doom, or the Road Warriors, the Nasty Boys, and Public Enemy in some match on Nitro. You know, and this is something we'd seen. We'd seen the Public Enemy and the Nasty Boys beat the snot out of each other, and I would have liked to have seen the title match rather.
Yeah, I mean, I've got here. There's a really weak table spot.
The table, the indestructible table as well, in the middle of the ring.
Then the second table that doesn't break. Brain calls it the toughest table he's ever seen.
Yeah.
The fans are starting to turn on it as well.
Yeah.
They are not enjoying it. Now, normally, you know, weapons and tables and all that gets a big reaction. But at this point, I think the fans have had enough.
Yeah, because like I say, I think it's a match they'd already seen before, you know?
Yeah.
And the spots weren't going right. You know, they said they had a table in the ring, and you know, the American Dream said that they were going to shish kebab him on the table legs, you know.
I think the fans wanted to probably see another go around of the Steiners and Harlem Heat, which I think we would have been happy to see as well.
Yeah.
Rocco Rock gets clotheslined by the chain, and the Nasty Boys win.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I'm not a huge fan of the Nasty Boys. Never really was. I mean, Public Enemy, I used to like them in ECW, but maybe we can do a little bit on Public Enemy in WWE, because they had a brief stint in WWE, and there was also quite an infamous match where the Acolytes beat the shit out of them on live TV on Heat.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Tony Schiavone says it was a mess.
It was a mess.
He's not wrong. They carry on brawling. Sags goes through a table, and the cameraman misses it.
Yeah.
I mean, that sums up the match. I mean, again, we'll try and have fun with it, and this is the fun that we're having, because we now find it funny that the cameraman's missed the big spot of someone going through the table.
That's right.
Especially when that, you know, the indestructible table earlier on was having so much fun with the guys. Yeah, not our favourite match from this show. So maybe we'll move on to Mean Gene speculating on the third man again.
With the security outside the Outsiders locker room.
Yeah, it's they're really pushing this third man thing, and for good reason. So we move on, and it's a little bit of memorabilia time, because it is the Cruiserweight title match.
Yeah. Nice, dude. Nice.
A nice bit of Toy Biz memorabilia, which I got well over a decade ago. Cost me 70 of our English pounds. I mean, now that's a bargain anywhere.
It's nearly $100 if we're going to go...
Yeah. And these things go now for 250, 300.
Yeah.
You know, on your WWE websites and stuff. I know you can get some dodgy ones off eBay, but I wouldn't touch those with a barge pole. Cruiserweight title time. Disco Inferno. There he is, the Disco Man himself.
The Disco Inferno.
We've got a fair bit to say on Disco.
Yep.
He's taken on the champion Dean Malenko, and
Dean Malenko.
I've got a quote from, I think it's Tony Schiavone. Oh my goodness, he's decked out in orange.
Yep. Great. I mean, I've got a very hot take on this match.
Okay.
Where we can all praise the wrestling skills of Dean Malenko
which we will
until the cows come home. His moveset, the way he executes things. But my God, he was fucking boring sometimes.
Oh, you think?
Oh, dude, this match for me it's a hot take, yeah, but it he just wasn't selling any comebacks from Disco. No matter what Disco was doing, he was just kind of no selling it, which made the match less legitimate. Um, he was just like I say, I'm not a fan of Dean Malenko. I
Okay.
I don't think he had any character to him. He was boring, and even you know,
This is a very, very hot take. This is a boiling take.
good,
This
good.
is very controversial.
And I wanted to see Disco Inferno win this one. No shit.
Oh,
Because I mean, Disco Inferno for me, right? I liked him. I liked the character. He was arrogant. He was a great heel. You know, he came in at the beginning of the match and he said, you know, something like, "Oh, Mr. Charisma over there,
Mr. Personality. Yeah, he
Mr.
says
Personality."
bring him
You
out.
know, and the fact that he had like shake your booty on the back of his pants and that. I thought Disco Inferno worked his ass off in this match. I thought it was really great.
Here's the thing. It's not a great gimmick. It's not. It's a disco dancing, guy in the '90s. It's Disco Stew, but in a wrestling outfit.
Yeah.
It's a Simpsons reference for anyone that's too young to know, like Disco Stew. But I've got a lot of time for the man putting in the effort and making the gimmick what he could.
Trying to, yeah, man. And he had legitimate wrestling ability. He was great at selling. He never really bitched and moaned, you know. And me personally, I would have been pissed off if I was him working with Dean Malenko and where every time he was trying to do a comeback, he wasn't even selling big moves and stuff like that, like headbutts and stuff like that. He wasn't, you know, Malenko was just he's very robotic. And that's why I'm not a fan of Dean Malenko. It's just he had everything down. He had the moves down. He had the way he executed it. The array of moves he could do. But his character, he just
But
didn't. He was a very poor.
he's the Iceman. He's not gonna be very talkative. He's gonna be steely,
But not even
golden
that. Not even talkative. It's not even about the talkative for me. It's the fact that he doesn't really, rarely has any give and take. You know what annoys me in wrestling, right? You've these guys that basically their selling of a move is them for half a second just going like that, right? And then they're back to normal, right? It pisses me off because you're not doing the moves justice. You're not. Half of your job is to be giving moves and the other guy selling them, but the other half of your job is to be selling yourself. And Dean Malenko for me was just always very poor at selling, and it seemed like if he didn't feel like you were worthy to be in the ring with him, he wouldn't really go too far to sell for you. And that was what disappointed me in this match, because it wasn't a bad match. The moves were great. The story that they were giving was, I mean, and I get obviously Malenko. The story of this match was he was beating the crap um, out of Disco, and he was just, but Disco. He had a couple of good comebacks that could have been made a little bit more and could have been sold a little bit more by Malenko, but then obviously Malenko would have clawed it back a little bit again like he did, but he just didn't. For me, it just upset me that he didn't sell better.
Okay, hot take aside.
Sorry, I just went on a
No,
little
no,
bit
no.
of.
This brings it in as well, because I've got, I'm diving off my notes just for a second. It
Yeah,
says I've got Malenko excellent. In this, he's technically really brilliant
can't
and stuff.
fault him. Yep.
Is he before his time?
Um,
Because if you look at a show like NXT, slightly smaller guys, I mean, the selling has definitely changed over the years. Would Malenko fit in there perfectly as a champion or something?
no, but I mean, I still think he could have. For me personally, he weren't doing half his job. I could have called him Dean Half a Job Malenko, because you know, half of your job is to sell when someone is attacking you. That's your job. And he weren't doing it. Like I say, I know as we keep coming back to, I like to be positive, and we always like to extenuate the positives and kind of.
Maybe I should finish the point on Malenko there.
Yeah, go for it, man. Honestly, because like I say, don't get me wrong. I don't hate Malenko. I just think that he could have been taken. I don't know. He could have. I can't explain it. He just, for me, he 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 didn't sell. He didn't dance well with others. You know what I mean?
Um, yeah, I sort of understand, but like I said, I think he's before his time. You know, selling isn't what it was, and you do go for a little bit from move to move sometimes on some of these other shows. Like, and I'm using NXT as a frame here just because it's the first one in my mind. Yeah, AEW too, um, where they go move to move to move to move with not a lot of selling, and you know maybe I think Malenko would have been perfect for something like that.
But I don't think.
If we're not selling
Yeah.
as much, then you put him in there, and he's and all the technical moves, all the technical, you know, wrestling that gets so well appreciated now on shows like WWE UK and NXT UK and NXT and all of that stuff. You know, it would have been Malenko's playground.
But yeah, like I say, I mean, you could. I mean, they gave him the strap, but I believe he lost the strap to Rey Mysterio Jr. the following day
He
on
does, yeah.
Nitro, if I remember
And
correctly.
another point, Malenko, if we can fast forward just for a minute to around 1998, is one of the most over guys in the company.
Yeah,
And that's a hot take.
it's
Purely, purely, but I mean, you might want to attribute Chris Jericho to some of that.
I believe
But
100% it was down to Chris Jericho, because you can't have one without the other. You can't just have the Iceman persona, because it just gets boring. And like I say, he had no charisma, he had no personality. He was just the Iceman. You can't ride that train. And also, let me talk about the Iceman. This is the time where you had the little vignettes on Nitro of Glacius or Glacier. Remember?
well, yes, it's just before Glacier turns up, isn't it?
Yeah. And yeah, just it popped into my head when we're talking about the Iceman gimmick. But yeah, like I say, man, like it's all well and good. You can be technically good at wrestling, but when it's their turn to beat the snot out of you, because he wasn't a big guy, Malenko.
No.
It's not like he was iron solid, massive, like no selling chops and all that kind of thing. He was fucking little. You know what I mean? And if a bigger guy, no, real talk though, like Disco Inferno's bigger than him. You know, stronger than him. And if he's laying in a couple of shots, fucking sell him, man. Sell him. You know, you're not indestructible, Malenko. You know, do your job, son.
Okay. The Brainbuster
Great.
is excellent.
Fantastic.
You know, it could have been a match finish, but it gets a 2 count.
Yeah.
Bobby Heenan makes a point during this match, and it stuck in my head for enough for me to note it down. Learn your craft, win some titles, and then dance. You know, because Disco's doing the dancing and all that, and I thought it was really like it was.
That is poignant. I think that is.
I've got the word poignant right next to it.
It's poignant because I think Bobby the Brain Heenan is trying to make the point I'm making here, where you can see that Disco's a legitimately good wrestler, but he's not being sold by Malenko as that. It's kind of, they're brushing over how good Disco really was in this match, and I thought he was really good.
Well,
I thought he was
the
great.
The commentary booth eventually start talking about Disco's resilience and how good he is, like how he's really coming on, and then the Cloverleaf, the Texas Cloverleaf, like ends the match.
Yeah.
So they didn't give him enough time.
No.
To get, well, the commentary team anyway didn't give enough time to get it over, and I was like, but I thought it was a good match.
No, good. Don't get me wrong, good match. Could have been better if Malenko had just kind of given a little bit as well. I think he just went in there with the idea, right, I've got to look really strong in this match, but yeah, I think the comebacks could have been sold a little bit more. That was all, because they didn't last that long, and Disco was bigger than him, and they could have he could have sold it a bit better. That's all. Like I say, I don't hate on Dean Malenko, but I do think that he needed to have people around him to enhance his personality. Hence he had to be working with people like Jericho. He had to be part of the Horsemen or whatever. You know what I mean?
So for anyone looking to back me up on this, on how great Malenko was, feel free to, follow us on Twitter at @ChatGrapplePops,
Yeah.
and just explain to Chris how great Malenko really was. And we're not. I don't think me and Chris are going to agree on this one at all.
It's not that I don't think he's a great technical wrestler. I just think that he had in his mind that that was the way it was going to go. And like I say, I just think he wasn't a great. Right, okay? Let me give you an example of what I mean. Like, compared to Eddie Guerrero, right? Eddie Guerrero was an absolutely phenomenal technical wrestler. Yeah, had a similar. He could move for move. He could wrestle with Malenko, right? He could keep up move for move, but his charisma and the way he sold moves made the other guy look good too, and it was. I just felt that when whoever Malenko was wrestling, he never really made the other guy look good. You know what I mean? That's my only argument with Malenko. That's my only argument.
That's at @ChatGrapplePops on
At
Twitter.
Hit me up hit us up on the Twitter if people don't agree. Fuck it, bring it, dude. You know what I mean? Let's have a conversation. Let's have a discussion. This is why wrestling's fantastic, because some people can really dig a cat. But let's think about did Malenko really draw a dime on his own?
I think there were times when Malenko could draw. Yeah.
That's different from there are times when he could draw, but was he?
Well,
really...
the times where he probably did. There are times where he did draw because, this is two to tango when he is taking on Chris Jericho at the time, and they're doing big business.
Wonder what Jim Cornette thinks of Malenko.
Should we ask him?
Let's ask him. But I do think But I think that wrestling is poorer for the fact of the no selling aspect of it, where it takes away that believability, that little bit of kayfabe where.
Oh, when matches jump from spot to spot to spot, it is difficult.
It's difficult to believe, to suspend your disbelief.
Yeah.
And this is where I think wrestlers like Malenko, that's why I don't particularly like them, because I like to look at someone taking a drop kick to the head, hold their head for a little bit and be like, fuck, I've just been kicked in the head. You know what I mean? Rather than just get up straight away and move on to the next one.
Something I noticed on the WWE Network, which was weird, is that they dubbed over Dave Penza for like 2 matches for some reason. I don't know why, but I'm going to stay positive in this next match. You might not do as well as me, because it's Joe Gomez, and then, to steal a line from a favourite film of mine, never mind that shit. Here comes Mongo.
Yeah. It's God, it's making me look like a right negative Nancy, because we've gone from Dean Malenko to Mongo McMichael. Look,
I've never heard anyone say that in that context. We've gone from Malenko to Mongo, and I'm still negative.
Yeah, I you know what? I don't like. I can't really explain. I don't like seeing people being unsafe in the ring, right?
Okay.
It's just because I've been in there, right? And I like to always know that when I was in the ring, the people that I was working with had my safety and my best interests as well as their own at heart, right? So their main aim wasn't just to get themselves over. Their aim was for us to work together and for us both to walk out of the ring at the end of the night and go home to our families. And I just think that Mongo weren't ready to be in a ring
No,
at
and
such a
this
level at
is
this
part of
time.
the point. It's Mongo with Deborah, his wife at the time, the lovely Deborah McMichael.
Yeah,
Uh, this match I've got, it is basic because Mongo's green like green beans,
yeah,
and it does get clumsy.
it does, and it,
I think this would have been better served as a 2 minute squash.
it would have been, because then you wouldn't notice his. And I'll tell you, do you know what?
His
I
flip,
am going to
yeah.
be positive about Mongo. I'm going to be positive about Mongo, right?
Here we go.
Dude, great. Okay, so the match wasn't great, and I will give you my positive point at the end of this when we get to the end of the match. So I'll give you all my negatives of what I thought of the match, and then when we get to the end, which is basically the final move, which is when I saw him go to do this move, I thought, Jesus Christ, please don't. Please don't let him. Please don't let him put someone, drop them on their fucking head. So the match starts. Um, it's it, and it's weird. If you don't know wrestling and you'd not been trained at wrestling, you wouldn't notice as many mistakes as what I'm gonna say now. So really, for a casual fan, it was probably fine. Okay, but it's just I noticed more things that were wrong than I probably should have noticed. Like, for example, the way he was hitting the ropes. When you run in ropes, you put your arm over the rope and then you lean back into it and you fly off it. He had his arm clenched in and he was like whacking against the rope with his arm twisted up, which is going to injure him more than anybody else, but it also means that he's not coming off the rope with any kind of force. Also, just little things like he botched a reverse neck breaker, which is like the Rude Awakening, yeah, where he still held on to the guy's head as they were dropping down, and he could have seriously broke this guy's neck. That was a real. I saw that and I just was like, oh, it's a bit dodgy. He did a botched back breaker as well. So you had the botched reverse neck breaker, dangerous move, a botched back breaker, which can also be a dangerous move if it's not done correctly. The way he was hitting the ropes, and also he was getting drop kicked, and when he was bumping, when he was getting kicked at the front, and then he was twisting round and landing on his front rather than just taking it and taking a back bump. So he had that fear. They call it the fear, innit? When you first start wrestling and you to do them back bumps. I've been there, dude. It's not nice. Landing on your back on a ring is fucking hard and it hurts. But if you're not over that fear, you shouldn't really be in the ring, because the fear is what's going to end up hurting somebody else or hurting yourself. So, those are all the just things. I just looked at it from a pure, like, wrestling point of view, looking, yeah, this guy shouldn't have been wrestling yet. But what were you saying about there's a reason why Mongo was in this position now? Because I believe, obviously, he's been brought in to the Horsemen at this time where Brian Pillman had left, because they played it up. There was only 3 Horsemen for a few weeks, weren't there? There was only Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, and Chris Benoit, because Pillman had subsequently disappeared. And they started having a thing where Deborah McMichael was in the crowd and Ric Flair kept going up to her and saying, yeah, come on, love, here's some champagne and all that, and which culminated at Great American Bash, something happening, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Where basically there was a match, a tag team match, and during the tag team match it was Double A and Ric Flair versus Green and Mongo McMichael, the two footballers, and then basically they chased Deborah McMichael out to the back. Woman did, and then basically they came back. She had a briefcase which was apparently full of money. Chucked it to Mongo, and then Mongo whacked his pal Green over the head, and then revealed it had a Horseman T-shirt in there, and boom, he's a Horseman.
Mongo added, Mongo was a Super Bowl winner. It adds a bit of legitimacy to the Horsemen, with a, real sportsman, if you will.
Yeah.
and a winner at that, being part of the team. And I mean, it makes sense from that point. But he is very green, and it gets to the. I mean, I wasn't. Maybe I was a little bit nervous at the tombstone spot. He goes
But
up for tombstone for the win, and
no, but the thing is, though, he executed it absolutely perfectly. It was it was a beautiful tombstone. And like I say, I'll hold my hands up, Mongo. You executed that perfectly. The guy was fine. I've seen Kane do some absolute dog shit tombstones and hurt people. I've seen him drop Albert. I've seen the Undertaker drop Albert on his head. I've seen Kane drop Albert on his head multiple times in one match. So I've got to hold my hands up and say, yeah, Mongo did well with that tombstone. When I saw him lift him up and about to drop him on his head, I thought, Jesus, he's no, but he did well.
we get a nice quote from Bobby Heenan. Look at the ferociousness in the dog's eyes, because Deborah is walking out with a little poodle, is
Yep.
it, under her arm?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's
And it was funny how now he's joined the Horsemen. Bobby the Brain Heenan's like, yeah, I've always liked him. I've always liked Mongo. And he's like, no, you haven't. You used to hate each other. He's like, no, I've always liked him.
Which is, I mean, we cut on to, I mean, the second best interview of the night.
Agreed.
With Ric Flair, Elizabeth. I'm not sure if she's Miss Elizabeth at this point, and Woman.
Yeah.
And this is great. Woman, Nancy Sullivan. Nancy, she's all over Mean Gene, rubbing his chest and
like a rash. It is fantastic. Yeah.
Ric Flair is, he's shouting, he's singing La Cucaracha for some reason.
Because they're talking about, because he's talking about, what's his name? He's talking about Conan. And he's like, I'll tell you what's not south of the border. These two beautiful ladies right here. La Cucaracha. It's like, it is Flair in his element. Styling, profiling. He's got the women. Great.
Woman steals the show in this part of the interview.
And Mean Gene too.
Gene is excellent too. He's getting hot and sweaty as he's being roughed all over.
She sucks his ear at one point, bro. I'm 100% certain she sucks his earlobe.
It's a fantastic interview, which leads into the US title match. Conan as champion against Ric Flair.
Can I just say a couple of good points from this promo, because I don't want to undersell it. It was absolutely fantastic. You've got Woman molesting Gene, rubbing all over him and that, and Mean Gene saying, I can't really come because I've got prior engagements and all that. And Ric Flair says something like, look, one more advance from Woman on you, and you're not going to be able to go back home. You're going to be over the road with us in the hotel, having a private party. And then, she says about having a private party. And he's like, private party? And he drops the mic and that. Fantastic. And just at the end of it, like I say, she sucks his ear at some point, which is great. And he finishes off the promo, Mean Gene, by saying, in addition to wrestling, we're going to have a little pole vaulting competition here.
Oh, so yeah, I do remember the pole vault comment.
These things are gold. Let's not play down Mean Gene's involvement in this whole pay-per-view as well. He's threaded through it, and he is, let's say, has a lot to do with what happens later on in the pay-per-view as well. Let's not go too much into that, but yeah, so great promo. Sorry, dude, I just had to, can't oversell it. It was fantastic. La Cucaracha, baby.
It's Conan and Ric Flair for the US title. Conan is champion. Now, did you hear the boos for Conan?
No, probably a few, but not overly. Was that probably die-hard Flair fans, right?
But I think at this point in this is 1996, Ric Flair is reaching that legendary status where no one's going to boo him. They're going to cheer him wherever he goes. I don't think he hears many boos until he reaches, his part in Evolution in WWE in 2003, where
Yeah.
he's working with someone more hated than anyone at that point in Triple H. But Flair gets cheered wherever he goes at this point, and it's difficult to put him as a heel in any situation where he's chasing a title because people are going to want to see that legend just win another title.
Yeah, I think this was his road back to getting another title shot, weren't it?
Yeah,
Because it's the US champ, so it's like
yeah.
a stepping stone then towards him getting.
WCW always had that rule where the US champ would be the number one contender for the world championship, and I mean, I think they're still following those rules at that point.
Yeah.
Do see a press slam from Conan, which is quite impressive because he's not huge. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
Woman shrieking.
Oh,
She's playing the part down there.
Rick! It is it's eerie. She's like a banshee sometimes. Just one thing about Conan. Conan looked quite fatigued during this match. I think he was a bit
banged up. He had the tape on his head.
Yeah, he'd probably been in a bit of a slobber knocker in Mexico, and he'd been wrestling quite a bit because he'd been going backwards and forwards because he'd been on Nitro, defending the US title and all that. Been in America, then been back to Mexico, and also just a side note, his ring gear had quite a few holes in it and looked a bit tatty. What do you think?
I didn't notice.
Something I just noticed. He had a couple of holes in it, and it looked a bit tatty. But I mean, when you're working every night, because
So,
your gear's going to get battered, and unless you're like Ric Flair and you have, many different coloured robes and sets of boots and pants, because Flair 1 week had been green, then he'd be in peach. He looked wonderful in peach. Don't get me wrong, right? I've got a missus and that, but Ric Flair looked absolutely beautiful in that pink
glorious.
peach, and you had Miss Elizabeth in the same colour as him, and you had Woman in the white playing like the innocent sweet. I mean, I'm a real fan of those three, really. Flair,
Yeah.
Miss Elizabeth, and Woman. It was they were a team, and they actually said that in the commentary. Them three are a team, and they worked as a team, especially during this match.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of a hokey spot where a woman shakes the bottom rope and Conan falls off the top rope.
Yes, I did, yeah.
It was, but it leads me into our next bit where a woman nails Conan with a low blow and the crowd loves it.
Yeah.
They're
I've got the low blow on my notes as
Flair
well.
and stuff like,
Pop.
great point from Heenan. His monitor cut out right at that second, so he missed it. Believe him.
Yeah, I believe him too. Yep. He's like, yeah, my monitor quit at that point. Great.
Yeah. Conan puts him in a figure four, which doesn't get as many cheers as I'm sure he thought it might.
Yeah.
You're disrespecting a legend at this point. Flair takes his top rope bump, which is always fun. I loved it every time he did it.
All day long, mate.
I know some people might not like it, might not enjoy it, but I mean, even the commentary team say, "Look, this never works," but it's great, and I really enjoyed that. And Woman knocks out Conan with the heel of her shoe.
It's a great shot as well, and to Conan's credit, he sells it really well.
Yeah.
Like you get, if it was Dean Malenko, he probably would have shook his head twice and then just carried on working. But but Conan, he takes the way he takes the shoe shot, and then he go. It's fantastic. Really good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, Flair wins it.
Sorry, dude.
Flair
We're
wins
gonna
it.
get some shit for this one.
Flair wins it to massive cheers. There's a really nice pop for Flair winning more gold. And I've got here, woman was gold as well. Here, like she's brilliant in this.
She gives
like,
it like that to Conan as they're walking
out
away.
there, like really, really good stuff.
He goes dancing away as well with the belt.
He's got a night of partying ahead of him.
Beautiful, mate. Maybe Mean Gene did too.
Mean Gene is the next point. He's eavesdropping to find the third man.
Yeah.
I think things are getting desperate
Yeah.
because they can't find Bischoff. They're trying to find out who the third man is, to no avail, and that leads on to the Horsemen, Benoit and Arn Anderson, going up against Sullivan and the Giant. I think if the Horsemen win, Ric Flair gets a title shot on Nitro.
Correct.
And this is a weird start because the Horsemen attack. They get attacked before the entrance.
Yeah.
And Mongo comes out, and it's all a bit hectic. It's almost like the match isn't going to go ahead.
Yeah.
And Giant chases Mongo away, and you're left with 2-on-1 against Sullivan, which I'm guessing is to give Sullivan a bit of heat. It's his hometown. Maybe try and get some cheers on him because he doesn't get a lot of cheers in general.
No.
And my hot take for the evening is that I've never been a big fan of Kevin Sullivan in the ring.
One spot at the beginning of this match, Kevin Sullivan picks up a normal chair and nails Double A at the back of the head with it. And you can see the edge, the rim of the chair, cracks Double A right at the back of his head. And it's just like a normal chair. It's like a normal metal chair.
Yeah, I'm
really
like
weird.
I said, I've never been a big fan of Kevin Sullivan in the ring. I don't know how you feel about it, but
it was weird. I mean, I liked the whole character of him. I was never really a huge fan. I mean, in the interview before when they were talking with Mean Gene, and the Giant says, he's not the weak link of the team, talking about Sullivan. He's the backbone, and then Sullivan's like doing all this, and he's like saluting and everything like that. And like I say, I was a bit, I was neither here nor there really on Sullivan. Yeah.
Benoit's chops stiff as hell on this. He is laying it on thick with Sullivan, and we'll just stick to the wrestling. He is really going in on it, and Sullivan's giving him as good as he can as well. But it's a tough night for Kevin Sullivan's chest.
There's a few stiff shots going in this match.
I mean, remember, this is like for the Giant. I mean, he seems like he's the only baby face in the match. He's lean and mean here, isn't he?
He didn't really get a look in the match, really.
No,
they kept him. I mean, that was the story of the match. They wanted to keep the Giant out because obviously he's the big guy. They wanted to keep Sullivan in their corner and keep working on him. That was the angle they were going with. But again, Benoit weren't selling anything in this match at all. He was getting poked in the eye, and it weren't even making a difference. He was just going and then just carrying on. Like it was a bit of a strange one, this match for me.
Yeah, it didn't click for me.
No.
And we get to two sloppy spots for Sullivan. It's a slingshot, and then a really awkward back suplex on Arn.
Yes, I've got terrible slingshot on Arn. Yeah. A couple of weird spots. Yeah.
But we do get the hot tag to the Giant, which is place seems to enjoy it. The fans go wild for it.
Yeah.
And this is where Benoit and Sullivan end up at the commentary position.
Correct.
And they're brawling it out there. Giant hits a big chokeslam on Arn, gets a 3 count. But that seems really unimportant at this point.
Yeah.
The cameras are just cutting straight back to Sullivan and Benoit.
Yeah.
Going at it at the on the beach. There's no surfboards or rubber sharks in this one. It's It's just fists and fire.
And
And
Bobby the Brain Heenan telling him, "Get out of here, get out of
yeah,
here," telling Benoit, "Get him out, take him back."
um, Benoit continues to batter Sullivan in the ring before Woman makes another appearance, and she's pleading with Chris to stop, which is, I mean, it is weird.
It's weird because it doesn't make no sense. Do people publicly know at this point that Nancy and Kevin are together?
Unknown for me.
I mean, did she start in the Dungeon of Doom?
No.
So this is what I mean. It's weird because now they're trying. Why? Because even the commentators are saying, "Why is she coming out? Why is she coming out and telling him to stop?" You know. So it didn't at this point. It didn't make much sense.
Yeah.
But obviously going forward, the angle going forward past this, it would make sense. But on this night, it didn't really make any sense. And also, it seemed like as they were both in the ring, and Chris Benoit got out the ring and Woman got out the ring when the Giant came back, that Double A was trying to see if Sullivan was okay.
Yeah.
It was just a bit blatant.
It was it was an odd turn, that one.
It was a weird one, yeah, definitely.
Like I said, there's plenty much to talk about on that whole thing, but we're gonna leave that for another day because it's main event time.
It's main event time, baby.
And it's our hostile takeover match.
Yes.
Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Extra Man against Sting, Luger, and Randy Savage. Now, I found as many credible third man conspiracies as I could find, and I got 4.
Okay.
Have you got any?
No, go for it.
The most hilarious one, which was eventually debunked by Eric Bischoff, was that Mabel was going to be the third man.
Okay.
Mabel, Viscera, whatever you want to call him. I mean, that would have been hilarious.
Men on a mission.
Exactly. At this point, he's wearing purple and gold. And, you know, I think he's main event in one show.
Was he King Mabel at that point? He'd been King Mabel.
I know he injured Diesel at SummerSlam or something. And
yeah,
just, I mean, the Mabel one was a good one. British Bulldog.
Okay.
Was another one. I didn't see a lot about it. I just know that, you know, he might have been approached about doing something. Yokozuna. Now, I'm not sure what Yoko's doing at this point. I couldn't place what Yoko was doing in mid '96.
'96. No.
And the last one, because his contract was up around that time, was Brett. And that would have been, I think that was probably the only one that would have been any. But it wasn't Brett. I'm going to spoil that bit for you. It wasn't Brett.
Well, in the promo that they had Mean Gene before, the promo where he was saying, right, there's still no Bischoff. I'm here outside with the guards. I've heard the third man's voice. There's definitely 3 men in there, and I can hear this voice. It's familiar, but I can't place it who it is. And then you've got Heenan saying, "Pay the guards, pay the guards, pay the guards to find out and tell them who's been in there." But he kept saying, "Look, I know the voice, but I can't place it. It's someone that we've seen, but I can't place it." So that was going into the match.
Just to make it feel bigger than it already is, we have Michael Buffer in the ring doing the introductions. He is the big time boxing ring announcer. He's the Ready to Rumble stuff. He's he's massive name, and I'm sure he was paid handsomely for the work he did with WCW.
He did quite a lot, didn't he?
Yeah, a lot of main events, including Nitros.
Yeah.
The Outsiders, Paul and Nash make their way out. Mean Gene is he must have ran. He's everywhere tonight. Down to the ring, demanding to know who the third man is.
Yeah,
Nash says he's here and he's ready.
yeah. But he
And
says, they say,
makes,
oh, go on.
Keenan makes the point that it could be Dusty.
Yeah.
I'm gone at this point. I'm like,
Oh,
this is peak Keenan.
fantastic.
Savage, Luger, and Sting come to the ring. You know, it's the commentary team really play up how the gravity of the situation and how big this could be. And then a couple of minutes in, Luger gets wiped out of a Stinger splash.
Yeah, it's a weird one because the outsiders, Hall and Nash, they're saying that in the pre-match thing, I said, look, we're enough to deal with these right here. Don't worry about the third guy. Just worry about us right now. Yeah, he's here, he's ready, and we're enough to take you lot on now. And then it's a very strange spot because, yeah, Luger's kind of got his head near the post, and then you've got Nash on top of him, and then Sting comes in for a Stinger splash, and he kind of gets sandwiched underneath Nash with the Stinger splash, and then he just falls to the outside of the ring.
Falls to the floor, and this is my I found a positive spin on this. Is that WCW made it seem almost legitimate because the response was, there was confusion around the ring.
Yeah.
Things looking around like, what the hell?
Yeah. They kept going and checking him.
All the Nash have stopped as well.
Yeah.
And the EMTs make their way to the ring pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, this is, it's got all the hallmarks of real injury, which is completely different to what WCW did when Buff Bagwell broke his neck in the ring on TV, like a couple of years later. Like, it just makes you wonder, like, a geezer can, legitimately break his neck and lie in the ring paralyzed and nothing happens, no one comes out. And Luger can take a pretty minor bump on a ring post and lie on the floor for a bit, and the ENTs are straight down there.
Yeah.
It's wrestling at its strangest. I also put in my notes that, in any sort of strange booking, you would think Luger might be the third man.
You know what? I actually was going to say that when you said if there's any theories about it. I was going to say the only theory that I was that Luger was faking it, that he was then going to come back as the third man because he was another ex-WWF guy that had been around the block and would have been a possibility, yeah.
They eventually turned into a regular tag match at this point.
Yeah.
And the commentary booth was selling it like mad. They're demanding that the third guy come out here right now. And
yeah.
They should know who it is, and it's just like it's really well done.
Yeah.
And it's like Hall and Nash are the biggest threats to their livelihood. They're saying people come out from the locker room and just beat them up and all this. It's like I've got that Randy Savage is as intense as ever here.
Yeah.
He was a live wire on the ring apron because Sting is the one taking the beating.
Yeah.
And he's all over the place. Savage. He's like he's a wild man of before. He's really loving his spot on the show. There's a drop kick to the knee, to Nash's knee.
Yeah.
From Sting. I really liked it. I thought
it was great. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I thought it was a really good spot. Like,
I love a drop kick to the knee. I think it's one of the great spots because it looks legit as fuck. It looks, if someone drop kicks you to the knee,
and someone as big as Nash, yeah.
Yeah, so it would take you down, man. It would take you down.
We spoke last week or last episode about Scott Hall and how I thought he was one of the best, one of the top workers in the world in '95. He looks just as good in '96.
Oh, he's good.
He's you know really on top form.
Big, strong,
Yeah,
confident, arrogant. Good.
yeah. Um, Sting would eventually get the hot tag to Savage,
That's
and the
right.
place losing it.
Yeah.
Um, we are getting to it. Um, the hot tag to Savage. Savage is laying waste to everything. Ref turns his back, and Nash hits him with a big low blow. Right, two hands underneath,
Bosh.
and it's pretty much almost to the like couple of seconds later, you see everyone stand up in the crowd.
Yeah.
All you hear is Dusty saying Hulkamania,
Yeah.
because here he comes. In his de facto hometown, it's Florida.
Yeah.
Hogan
In the
is
yellow and red.
exactly Hogan in yellow and red comes down to big cheers because it's Hogan's home. It's Hogan's town. It's Hogan's area, and Bobby Heenan almost ruins it.
Well, they initially cut it out of one of the broadcasts, I believe.
They cut it out on a Hogan DVD,
Yeah.
and I'm sure they probably cut it out on the replay of the
Yes,
paper.
they cut it out on the replay when he says, "What side is he on?" Right?
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, he immediately gets squashed by Tony and Dusty.
Yeah.
As in, what are you talking about? But Hogan in the ring, shirt ripped off. It's classic Hogan.
And they're like, "Get him, Hogan! Get him!"
Now, I see a bit of doubt in his eyes
What
because
before?
he'd been thinking about it, and he'd been on the phone to Bischoff and stuff all day because he wasn't sure.
Really?
He thought it was going to kill his merch, his business, his money. And I feel like you can see it just for a split second. You can see that he's not convinced, but then he does it.
Before you can see a bit of hesitation
Yeah,
before he drops the leg. Heard around the world.
he big, the leg drop of doom on Savage. Commentators are struck. Fans go quiet for a minute.
Heenan's like, "He's the third man."
Yeah, Heaton knew it all along.
He knew it.
Sting is kicked to the side. He's thrown out. Hogan lays in a couple more leg drops on Savage.
Yeah.
The ref is thrown out.
Yeah.
Count a bogus 3 with Hall counting. It's and at this point it's just chaotic in the ring.
Yeah. And you can feel genuine heat. You can feel the genuine, like, the commentators are like, "I cannot believe this." I can't believe it. It was the amount of leg drops as well, because he hits the first leg drop, and then he hits another one, and then they drag the ref out, and then he leg drop. Like, it's like, man, it gives you that, whoa, is this actually happening kind of thing, And then he points to the guys, and they come in and that, and then, and then in comes the debris.
Yeah, the fans start throwing stuff in the ring, the rubbish and their cups of drink and whatever.
Also, just quickly, some signs were taken away by security at the beginning of this match. So whether that sign said Hogan's the third man or whatever, I can imagine that's why they took it. I will re-watch it and try and find out what it says, or if they've cut it or whatever. But Just a quick one, dude. Do you reckon? Do you reckon Vince McMahon has ever watched this? He must have.
What do you mean, Bash at the Beach?
Yeah.
I'm sure someone would have told him about it. He's not big on watching other shows.
I mean, think about this. Even this is the death of Hulkamania, right? Something that you've built up with Hulk Hogan over X amount of years. He's gone to this other company and he's been flying the Hulkamania flags. He's had the t-shirts with Hulkamania on it. And this has happened. Like, someone would tell you, wouldn't you be like, oh shit, I need to see that? Like, wouldn't you be like,
Maybe.
damn, I need to see this shit? Or maybe he was just like, damn, why didn't we think of it?
I'm sure at some point it might have crossed his mind.
This is the biggest heel turn ever, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, the only one I can ever think that would be bigger is if John Cena came out and turned heel.
Not happening.
It's never happening, is it? But that is because Hogan would have never turned heel in WWF for the simple fact that, you know, they would have said that don't sell merch. It don't sell merch. You can't go and do the sick and dying kids Make-A-Wish Foundation if you're a heel. Sorry, dude, not gonna. It wouldn't have even crossed their mind. Wouldn't have even crossed their mind.
So, Mean Gene gets into the ring. Hogan tells the fans to shut up, which, I mean, it's already, chucking petrol on the heat that he's already got. The funny bit about this was Nash and Hall doing the Hogan poses in the background.
They were doing that over when people were throwing stuff in. You know what? At this point, after all the leg drops, and then they roll out Savage. Mean Gene comes in, dodging drinks and fry packets and that. It's at this point when Hogan looks around, and just probably thinks, man, this is real heat, like, and this is the best promo that I think I've ever seen Hulk Hogan do, or ever will see him do, I think, personally.
You could be right. It's he says that it's a future of wrestling that they've got there. It's the new world order of wrestling, which I mean that begins to sell itself.
Yeah.
He says, who knows more about that big organization up north than him?
He says, I helped build that organization up north.
He made people millionaires, billionaires, whatever he wanted to say.
Yep.
And Hogan said he got bigger than that organization.
Yeah.
And he said that billionaire Ted, which I thought was a bit strange, bringing up the reference of billionaire Ted, considering that he was being used on WWF TV as, a bit of a clown, a bit of a.
That's right.
They were really mocking him on Federation.
Yeah, they had the Nacho Man, didn't they? They had the Nacho Man, billionaire Ted, Huckster, Scheme Gene.
He said that billionaire Ted had promised him movies and millions.
Yes.
And that he was bored.
Yep.
And
he's like, I'm bored, brother. It's just guys. If you have not seen this event, this is an event that changed the way the wrestling business worked, ultimately. It is a time when, when kayfabe, or whatever you want to call it, the real life aspects of what's going on and the shoot aspects of it was starting to actually be brought into the product. And Vince saw this as well as a time when they started changing, right?
Yeah, Vince would eventually see it. I think Eric was just a little bit ahead of him.
Yeah.
On this. Hogan says they're going to take over. That as far as he's concerned, the crap in the ring represents the fans.
Because Mean Gene says, Look at these people. They're angry. Look at all the crap in this ring. And then, without a second's hesitation, he says, to me, this crap in this ring represents these fans out here. And then the drinks start coming. He gets caned with and you can see the drinks splashing everywhere. This is legitimate. And then that's when he says, you fans can stick it.
Fans can stick it, brother.
Right.
It's amazing stuff. I think one of the best lines is that he says that Eric Bischoff would still be selling meat from a truck in Minneapolis.
Yeah, dude. If it wasn't for me, that's right.
I think he screws up his lines a couple of times because he calls it the New World Organization.
That's right.
But, we'll skip over that. That's, minor.
In the heat of the moment, you can forgive him because in all the years, all Hogan had ever known, all he'd ever known was babyface, 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 say your prayers, drink your milk, da 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 da. That's all he'd ever known. This was even uncharted territory for Terry Bollea. He'd never been.
I think he'd had heel runs way back in the early 80s,
but really not to the it is.
And we've got the sign off because Tony Schiavone says we've seen the end of Hulkamania.
That's right.
Hulk Hogan, you can go to hell, straight to hell. And then we've got the credits.
Executive producer.
Yeah, Mr. Bischoff. So he was there somewhere.
That's right. And then after this, I watched the 2-hour episode of Nitro that was done at Disney World.
Is it MGM?
MGM, yeah. So they all did, that's it, MGM Studios, and that is where they coin the name Hollywood Hogan.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who it is. It might be Arn Anderson. It's someone calls him Hollywood Hogan. And here's another one of my WCW cards. Hollywood Hogan. It's where it all begins. And
that kicks off an era in Nitro that is excellent, really good shows.
Yeah.
There's the one where they're Hall and Nash, I think, attacking Rey Mysterio and Arn and stuff outside of
throwing him up against it. And this was also a time where you never saw the back truck. You never saw, the because I've got the Back in Black, the NWO VHS, and I've got it on DVD as well actually, but I've got the VHS of Back in Black, which is a WWF release, and they're saying, look, you never saw, because they were going back taking the headsets off people, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were taking the headsets off all the production guys, throwing them out the chairs, sitting in the chair saying, right, we're taking over, mate. This is, and it was the New World Order taking over WCW, and it was like splitting the brand. And that's when it all, nothing really was the same after that,
that was definitely the goal, wasn't it? To split the brand and make NWO its own entity, which didn't quite happen. But what a run for the next 2 years.
Absolutely.
And it's WCW just picking up, winning the war with the WWF for a long time. And just being, it was a better product for sure.
It was for a certain age group that were the ones that were going to be spending the money as well, it was definitely making money hand over fist. But then we obviously later find out the amount of money it was costing them to keep these guys, and there was also a lot of other stuff when you get these guys with favored nation status contracts, where basically if anyone else comes into the company and gets more money than you, your salary automatically gets bumped up to theirs.
I have a strange fact for for this one is that WCW, like Nitro, was on TNT in the UK on Friday nights,
It
and
was.
Sky would
Yeah.
put WWF Raw on a Friday night as well, around about the same time. And Nitro never beat Raw once
In the UK.
in the UK. Yeah, and TNT was free.
It was. Yeah, it was a free movie channel. Yeah.
Never beat Raw in the UK once. I thought that was a astounding sort of like fact.
I think it's maybe the age group of the viewer.
Yeah.
The age group, the average age group of the viewer in the UK at that time was probably solely on the WWF product at that time. And in America, the demographic was probably different. That's all I can say, really, because they were doing they were beating WWF in America every week on the ratings.
It's yeah, that was it was a weird one. Like I sort of stumbled across, but there we have it.
That's right.
Another one in the books. This Bash at the Beach '96.
Bash at the Beach '96, the birth of the NWO and Hollywood Hogan.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun watching this.
Yeah, definitely. I watched it a couple of times. And I'll tell you what, right? I'll tell you what we do. We, myself and Jordan, we like to collect stuff. We're huge wrestling collectors. We are, we've got figures, we've got T-shirts, we've got sticker books, we've got cards, we've got,
last week.
we've got it all. So I'll tell you what, if we can get X amount of likes on this video, right, and we can get more comments on this video, if you can comment NWO #NWO, and we can get what 100 likes on this video, it's not too much to ask.
Let's
if we
have
can
100.
get 100 likes on this video, then and if you put in the comments #NWO, I will send you. We'll pick a person at random, and I will send you this NWO Hollywood Hogan card. All right. So if we can get 100 likes on this video, hopefully more subscribers, then just comment #NWO, and all the people that comment #NWO in the comments, we will pick one at random, and then I will get onto those people and I will send them this Hollywood Hogan 1998 Topps card. So there you go, a little giveaway, first little giveaway.
And yeah, I think with that we'll say good night. Thank you to anyone that's still watching, anyone that's carrying on watching us and enjoying what we're doing. And yeah, just you're gonna do the subscribe and like
and subscribe, man. Like I say, we'd love to get our subscription rates up on YouTube. So when you like the video, please subscribe, comment #NWO in the comments. But yeah, please like this video, subscribe, get onto us on Twitter, and if anyone has got a little bit of beef to pick with me over this guy here, if anyone has a differing opinion to me, then I'm happy to have the conversation.
Malenko fans, get at him.
Yeah, man, Malenko fans.
That's nice. Right. Remember, be nice. We're always nice here.
We're always nice. You know, everything's always said tongue in cheek, and we're always just being cheeky with it. We're a couple of cheeky English lads. Love to hear from some American guys and gals, as well as the British guys and gals. But you know, we're just a couple of cheeky English chappies drinking cups of tea and eating fish and chips, but we bloody love wrestling, and we're going to keep smiling, and we're going to keep doing this thing. So yeah, get us on Twitter @ChatGrapplePops. We are Chris Dredd, the main man, JB, aka Jordan. What can we say?
Before we go, thank you to anyone that's carried on watching, that stayed up or hasn't fallen asleep.
Yep.
Thank you to treeoflifeframing.com for those awesome hoodies that we showed last week. If anyone's got any interest in those hoodies, give them a shout. Or give us a shout here and we'll fix it up.
Absolutely.
And that's a thank you from me. Thank you from Chris.
Yeah, dude.
And we'll see you again soon.
See you soon, guys. Cheers.